Erev Tov and good evening, everyone. We are in the Zera Shimshon and Parsha Shlach. We are in the sefer on Daf Kuf Pei Aleph. This is Os Aleph, section 1 in Parsha Shlach, and we're going to take a look now at a pasuk and a Rashi. So Perek Yud Gimel in Bamidbar, of course, our Parsha Shlach, and this is pasuk Tes Zion. It says, "Eila Shmos ha'anoshim asher sholach Moshe losur es haaretz." These are the names of the men that Moshe sent to search out the land, and this pasuk comes right after those names had just been listed. Vayikra Moshe leHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. And Moshe called the name of Hoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. So we learn here that the famous Yehoshua, Moshe's assistant and Moshe's right-hand man, so to speak, was actually named Hoshea. So his given name was Hoshea bin Nun, and Moshe called him Yehoshua. That was the name that Moshe gave him, and we'll see what Rashi has to say about that. Rashi says, "Vayikra Moshe leHoshea," and Moshe called Hoshea Yehoshua. Rashi says, "Hispalel alav," he davened for him. Ka Yoshiacha, Hashem should save you, me'atzas meraglim, from the council of the meraglim. So Moshe, by adding by changing his name from Hoshea to Yehoshua, this was part of the tefillah, part of the prayer that Moshe said about Yehoshua, that God should save you from the council of the Meraglim, and we know, of course, that Yehoshua was only one of the two Meraglim that came back, and along with Kalev, and did not participate in the sin of the Meraglim, the Chet HaMeraglim, and Moshe's prayers in that sense were certainly answered. But let's take a look at the Zera Shimshon now and see what he has to say about this incident in the Chumash and what Rashi said about it. Vayikra Moshe leHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua. That's a quote from the pasuk that we just read. Pirish Rashi. Rashi explained, Ka Yoshiacha, Hashem should save you, me'atzas meraglim, from the council of the spies. Koshe, this is difficult. Lama Ka Yoshiacha. Why did Moshe phrase this as Yud Hey, the name of Hashem, a Yud and a Hey, for Ka, should save you. V'halo afilu os achas min Hashem yochel gam kein lehoshio me'atzas hameraglim. Even if Moshe had only added one letter from Hashem's name to Hoshea's name, it would have been effective in protecting him from the council of the Meraglim. Now, take that question, because that question by itself means, why is Rashi implying that Moshe added two letters, meaning a Yud and a Hey, so that he would create Ka, and then he could say Ka Yoshiacha, Hashem should save you, when all he had to do was add one name. But hold on to maybe what you're thinking about that to see the second question. V'od shelefi ha'emes lo hosif lo ela hayud. Truthfully, the Zera Shimshon says, all Moshe Rabbeinu did was add one letter. He added the Yud, right? He didn't add a Yud and a Hey because there was a Hey already there. So these two questions, the first two questions, there's a third question coming in a moment, but let's pause on these two questions. They're kind of a either side of the coin, or what we call a mimon afshach, either way you look at it. So in other words, what he's saying is this. He's saying, Rashi, you said that Moshe wanted to change Hoshea's name so that it could be incorporated into this prayer, this tefillah of Ka Yoshiacha, Hashem using the name, the Yud and the Hey should save you. And so if, Rashi, you want us to take you literally, that you mean that God added two letters, a Yud and a Hey, so then my first question comes into play, which is, why did Moshe need to add two letters of Hashem's name? Had he only added one letter, that should have been sufficient. And then if you, Rashi, you don't want us to take you literally, you don't want us to literally read what your words seem to say and seem to indicate that Moshe added two letters to Hoshea's name, and you're conceding that it was only one letter, the letter Yud, to make it Yehoshua, if that's really what you mean to say, Rashi, then why are we talking? Why did you seem to indicate that it was Yud and Hey? Why not just come right out and say Moshe only added one letter? So the Zera Shimshon is setting up his first two questions in that kind of either side of the coin. Rashi, if you say this, then we have a question, and if you explain it this way, then we also have a question on what you're saying. The Ode, and another question, meaning a third question, Mad Sorech L'Shtei Devarim. Why were two things necessary for Moshe to do to help Yehoshua? Hosafas ha'os shel Hashem, to add a letter from Hashem's name to Yehoshua's name, v'gam lehispalel olav, and also to daven for him. V'halo b'chada minayhu, and isn't it true that with just one of these things, sagi, it would have been sufficient? So the third question simply says that if we from based on Rashi, if we read Rashi carefully, it looks like two things are happening. Moshe changed Hoshea's name to Yehoshua by adding the Yud, at least the Yud from Hashem's name. And then in addition to that, he also said a special tefillah, special davening for him. So the question is, Moshe, why'd you do both things? Why not do one of the two things? Certainly, if you had just added a letter from Hashem's name, that would have been a very powerful source of assistance for Yehoshua and a source of protection. Or if you had not done that and you had just davened for him, of course, Moshe's prayers to Hashem, that would have, of course, also been a very effective way of bringing protection, divine protection for Yehoshua. So this Zera Shimshon's third question is, why did Moshe choose to do both things? Let's begin to look at the answers that are developed by the Zera Shimshon. Second paragraph. V'yesh lomar, and we can say, the Isa b'sefer ha-Zohar, it states in the Zohar, al pasuk kulam anoshim. It says when it talks about the Meraglim, kulam anoshim, they were all men. And we're going to see that when it says men, it's not just telling us their gender, it's telling us they were great men. Here's what the Zohar says. Kulhu zakoyin havu, all of them were righteous. In other words, they were meritorious. Vireshe di Yisrael havu, and they were heads, they were leaders of the Jewish people. Avol inon dibru ligarmaihu ita bisha, but they spoke amongst themselves an evil counsel. They came up with an evil plan, with an evil report, a bad report. Amai not lu ita da. Why did they come up with this bad report and this evil plan? Ela omre, but this is what they said. If the Jewish people go up to the land of Israel, nisavar anon, we will be passed over milemehave rishon, from being leaders. V'yimne Moshe rishon achrinon, and Moshe will appoint other leaders. Deha zachinon b'midbara, because we had the merit in the midbar, only in the midbar, lemeheve rishon, to be leaders of the Jewish people. Aval be'ara lo nizke, but once the people go into the land of Israel, we will no longer merit to keep our positions. Ad kan lashono, until here is a quote from the language of the Zohar itself. So let's pause here. What the Zohar seems to be teaching us is it's providing a kind of psychological insight into the actions of the Meraglim. Why were they biased towards Eretz Yisrael? Why did they see things in a way that made them come back with a negative report? Because in the back of their minds, they were convinced that once Bnei Yisrael crossed into the land of Israel, crossed into Eretz Canaan, which would become, of course, Eretz Yisrael, then they would no longer be able to remain as leaders, and they would be replaced by Moshe with new people in their positions. And since they did not want that to happen, they wanted to retain and maintain their positions. So they looked at everything and they perceived everything in a negative way, and they came back and they said, we can't do it, it's too hard, it's too difficult, the people are too powerful, everything is too fortified, and all of the other things that they said. So according to the Zohar, that's kind of the behind-the-scenes take on what was going on inside of the Meraglim, inside of the spies' thinking. The Kosvu HaMekubalim, and the Mekubalim wrote, Sheshem Yud He, that the name of Hashem that we say Ka, the Yud and the He name of Hashem, Eino Shora al Bale Gaiva. it cannot dwell along with people who are arrogant. De gaiva, because the word gava, which is composed of the letters gimel, aleph, vav, and hey, which in gematria equals 15, and gematria yud and hey. That's the same gematria of the name of Hashem that is composed of the yud and the hey, which of course also equals 15. So from a Kabbalistic perspective, if a person is a Baal Gaiva, if a person has arrogance, then that person has, so to speak, taken away or wants to take away control from Ka, from Hashem, because Hashem's gematria is 15, and the person is saying, look at me, I have the gematria of 15, I have pride, I also equal 15. So they're not making a place, they're not willing to leave a space for Hashem's control, so to speak, for Ka to be in control. And therefore Hashem, the name Ka, cannot dwell along with a person with arrogance. And because these people, the reason for their sin was machmas hagaiva, it was because of their arrogance, their pride. Because they were afraid, their whole concern was that they would be passed over and would no longer be leaders. And Zera Shimshon is saying that's a kind of gaiva. It might not be the kind of arrogance that we sometimes associate with a highly egocentric, boastful person, but when we think about it, the root of that kind of thinking is gaiva, meaning only I can do my position. Only I can do what I do. No one else possibly can. Even when we take that to the extreme and we say, even vis-a-vis Hashem, Hashem has a plan for the Jewish people to go into the land of Israel, but that's not good. That's what Hashem says is good, but that can't really be good because that would result in me losing my position. Once I become so caught up in myself, my needs, my position, my honor, and thinking only I can do this, and anything that jeopardizes my position and my role can't be right, then we know that our gaiva has taken on too strong a component. It's become too powerful a force, and it can lead us to do things that are highly negative, and in this case, highly, very, very tragic way for Bnei Yisrael. So at the root of what was going on, according to the Zohar, and then followed up by the Mekubalim, was this thought process that was going on in the heads of the Merag. Continuing on the bottom paragraph, Mishum Hachi, because of this, Lirmoz al Zeh, in order to hint to this, Hosif Os Achas Me Hashem, Moshe added one letter from the name of Hashem, the Yud, V'nitztarfa im Os Rishona Shel Hosea, and he added it to the first letter of Hosea's name, Shehi Hey, which is a Hey. So Moshe took the letter Yud and he added it to the Hey and combined it with the Hey at the beginning of Hosea's name. The Omar, and then he said, Ka Yoshiacha, the Yud that I added and the Hey that was already part of the first letter of Hosea's name together represents Hashem's name, and Hashem should save you, Klomar, which means to say, Ro'oi hu Hashem Yoshiacha lefi shehoya onav. Moshe was saying it is appropriate for Hashem to dwell and rest with this person, Yehoshua, and protect him. Why? Because he is a humble person. He is not a Baal Gaiva. He's not an arrogant person. He's a onav. Kedei shelo yechteh kemohem, in order that Yehoshua should not sin along with the other meraglim. Vizu eina tefillah mamish. And this was not actually a prayer. Elatana behechrich. Rather, it was a claim, a compelling claim. In other words, Moshe wasn't, so to speak, davening to Hashem and saying, please, Hashem, protect Yehoshua, as if we might say a prayer on behalf of someone who didn't deserve what we were asking for. And Moshe was saying, Yehoshua doesn't have the merits, but please do this thing as a part of a tefillah. No, that's not what was going on here. This was more a case that Moshe was making, a compelling case that Moshe was making to Hashem, Kedei lekabil Ezra mikodesh, in order that Yehoshua should receive support and help from the Holy One, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from Hashem. So it's very subtle what the Zera Shimshon is saying. What he's saying is that Moshe, and he uses the word taina, a claim. Moshe was making a kind of claim to Hashem, and he was saying, Hashem, if the other spies get too caught up in their positions and their prerogative and their rights and their privileges, know that that's because they have gaiva, and that's the root of it. But Yehoshua is an unav. Yehoshua is an exceedingly humble person, and therefore it's only right that he should not be caught up in their evil plan, in their lashon hara, in their evil report. It's only fair and only just that that's what should happen. So in that sense, it's more an argument about fairness and justice as more than it might be viewed as a prayer. Now let's continue in the top of the second column. V'hashdonicha, and now it makes sense. Shehispalel al Yehoshua v'lo al Kalev. Now we can understand why Moshe prayed or made this claim for Yehoshua and not for Kalev. The Bishlama Yehoshua, because regarding Yehoshua, it is well known that Moshe knew about him, that he was a humble person. Dichsiv, as it's written in the Torah, Umisharso Yehoshua bin Nun, and Moshe's servant or assistant, Yehoshua bin Nun, Na'ar, was a lad, Lo Yamish Mitocha Ohel. Those are the two words that are missing from the end of the pasuk. He did not depart from being in the Ohel, in the tent. This pasuk tells us a couple of things about Yehoshua. First of all, it refers to Yehoshua as a Na'ar, as a young lad. Yehoshua was not, in terms of his own chronological age, a young lad at this point. However, in his relationship to Moshe Rabbeinu, he made himself into a Na'ar. He made himself as if he was a young boy, constantly listening to Moshe, to everything Moshe said, and doing everything he possibly could to assist Moshe. He wasn't like an adult man who says, I have my own needs, I have my own family, I have my own goals, I have my own aspirations, and therefore I don't really have the full amount of time to devote to Moshe Rabbeinu. No, he made himself like a nar who said, I have no responsibilities, even though he did. I have no responsibilities. My only job is to serve Moshe Rabbeinu and listen to Moshe Rabbeinu and learn from Moshe Rabbeinu. So he made himself like a nar. Then the pasuk continues, Lo yamish mitocha ohel. He never departed from the ohel where Moshe Rabbeinu sat, where Moshe Rabbeinu studied, where Moshe Rabbeinu taught, and that's the place that he devoted himself fully to. So this shows a tremendous humility on his part. And it was clear that he was totally committed to emulating his Rebbe, to emulating Moshe Rabbeinu. Dichsiv Bey, and the Torah writes about Moshe Rabbeinu, the Ha'ish Moshe Onav Me'od, Moshe was exceedingly humble. This is one of the famous psukim about Moshe Rabbeinu, where the Torah itself testifies, Hashem testifies that Moshe was the most humble person who ever lived. And because we know Yehoshua was constantly doing everything he could to learn from Moshe, to emulate Moshe, this shows that Moshe knew that Yehoshua was an exceedingly humble person also. Aval beKalev, but regarding Kalev, lo haya Moshe kol kach muchzak bo. Moshe was not so completely certain that Kalev was also equally humble like the way Yehoshua was. Umishum hachi lo hispalel alav. And because of this, he did not daven for him. We need to realize when we read that line that Moshe didn't daven for Kalev, meaning specifically according to this point, this explanation that the Zera Shimshon gave us before, that this wasn't a tefillah where Moshe was saying, Hashem, help Yehoshua, because then it would have applied to Kalev too. As a matter of fact, it would have applied to all the Meraglim. And that question about davening for all the Meraglim is going to come up later in this piece in the Zera Shimshon. If it was that kind of open-ended tefillah where Moshe said to Hashem, Hashem, please protect these men, please protect these spies, and make sure they come back with a good report and don't let them fall into evil, then of course Moshe would say a tefillah like that for all of them. But that's not what it was. The Zera Shimshon just explained to us. It was a taino behechrech. It was a compelling claim that Moshe was putting in front of Hashem, saying that Yehoshua is an exceedingly humble person, and I can attest to this 100%. And therefore, if there is any problem that develops that has to do with gaiva or arrogance, to please Hashem realize that Yehoshua should not be included in that in any way. And that's why Moshe could not say those same words, even if he wanted to, about Kalev, because he did not personally know Kalev well enough to be able to attest in front of Hashem that Kalev also had this tremendously profound sense of humility. So because he couldn't do that, he didn't say the same thing about Kalev as he did about Yehoshua, with whom he did have the close personal connection and the close personal relationship. V'hatargum shel Yonasan ben Uziel misayenu. In the Aramaic translation of the Targum, Yonasan ben Uziel assists us in this matter because it says the following. Here's a quote from the Targum Yonasan. V'chadchama Moshe anvas nuse. And when Moshe, and because Moshe was aware of Yehoshua's humility, his anivus, Kara Moshe leHoshea bin Nun Yehoshua, that's why Moshe called Hoshea bin Nun Yehoshua, Ad Kan Lashono. So the Targum puts it right in front of us. Everything that the Zera Shimshon has been saying, and the thought and the idea that he's been developing, that this was a specific point that Moshe was making to Hashem, specifically about Yehoshua because of his great humility. The Targum Yonasan summarizes that perfectly and says, because Moshe knew about Yehoshua's anivus, his humility, that's why he added the yud to his name and changed his name. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote. V'ayin od mizeh le'el b'Parsha Shlach. You can see more about this general topic in Parsha Shlach al pasuk vayet ohalo. That's actually regarding Avram Avinu, and that's back in comments that the Zera Shimshon made on that parsha, on Parsha Shlach. So let's continue. Ve'od yesh lomar b'tiritz kushas hamaforshim, and we can also now talk about an answer to the question that the Meforshim asked, Lama hispalo Moshe al Yoshua v'lo al Kalev. The Meforshim asked a question that we just answered, but the Zera Shimshon says, I have more to say about it. The question is the one we just talked about. Why did Moshe daven for Yoshua and not for Kalev? So the Zera Shimshon says, let me even explain more, give another answer. The kushya me'ikara lesa, this question from its very inception does not exist. The question of why did Moshe not also daven for Kalev the way he did for Yoshua is not a reasonable question, the Zera Shimshon says. Why? Demai ulme de Kalev mishar hameraglim. Because in what way is Kalev stronger than the other spies? Meaning, why are we saying Moshe should have also davened for Kalev? Kalev was exactly the same as all the other spies at that point. Only when they came back from the mission did Kalev distinguish himself and show that he was very different from them. But at this point, when the mission was about to start, Kalev and the other spies were all one group. There's no reason to say, oh, Moshe should have davened for Kalev. Shahare ba'osa shah kulam hayu kisherim. At that time, all of them were righteous men. They were pious, good men. V'im hayim mispalel al Kalev. And if Moshe had in fact decided to daven for Kalev, hayu lo lehispalel nami al kulam. Then he should have davened for all of them. Shahashem yatzilei me'achet. That God should save them from sin. And from any bad thoughts or evil thoughts. Meaning, you have to rephrase your question. You have to reform your question. There are no grounds to say Hashem should have davened for Yoshua and then for Kalev. What you can say is Hashem should have davened for Yoshua and then all the Meraglim. But to single out Kalev before the mission started would have made no sense. Kalev was just like the other Meraglim at that point. All of them were good men, all of them were known leaders, all of them were righteous men. So there would have been no reason for Hashem to single out Kalev. Why Hashem singled out Yehoshua, the Zera Shimshon has already explained, but there would have been no reason to single out Kalev before the mission began. But we have to say that a tefillah like this, meaning a davening for all of the spies, that none of them should do something bad, doesn't make sense. Mishum shekol adam yesh lo bechira v'ratzon. Every person has bechira chafshis, has the free will and a free choice to act as they will. And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't think it would be appropriate to go around and say, daven for each person, oh, you shouldn't sin, you shouldn't sin, you shouldn't sin, you shouldn't sin. These are righteous people. And it would be almost an insult for Moshe to say that they shouldn't sin. There's no reason for him to have a chashash, to have a concern, to have a suspicion that they would sin. And after all, they also have bechira chafshis, and that's their discretion. It's not up to Moshe to daven to Hashem that a person shouldn't sin. It's up to the God-given gift of bechira chafshis, of the free will, to each person. And absolutely, we can concede that Moshe was afraid. Pen kulam, o rubam, o miktsasam, perhaps all of them, or most of them, or even just some of them, yishafhu lehara, would change their righteousness to something bad, to something evil. Of course, Moshe had that concern. And it was possible that Kalev also would change from his righteous stance in his previous history of being a righteous individual to come back with a bad report. Moshe knew that was a possibility. But in the eyes of Moshe at that time, before they left on their mission, they were all righteous people. The ilav hachi, because if that was not the case, if Moshe didn't feel that way, lo hayasholchom klal, he never would have sent them at all. So we see the facts speak for themselves. We see from the fact that Moshe sent this group of Meraglim, that he trusted them, that he viewed them as kesherim, as righteous people, as good people, and therefore there was no reason for him, even though he did, of course, have concerns, and Moshe was a realist, and he knew that things could happen, and things could change, and people could change their views, and people could come back with an evil report, as in fact happened with 10 of the 12 Meraglim, but nonetheless, Moshe felt like a general prayer about let them not sin or let them not fall into evil would not have been appropriate. Elisha'af outside Hasafek, however, because there was this doubt, Rotza Lismoch Yedei Yehoshua B'Tfila Nitzchis, he wanted to give a long-lasting tefillah for Yehoshua, Shemin Hashamayim Lo Yanichuhu Lios Nisas Ba'atzosan, that Yehoshua should not be caught up in any kind of evil plan, any kind of evil advice or evil report that the other Meraglim might develop. Im yavo lichal eitzara, if they would come to do that. He had no reason to suspect that they would, but because there was a chance that they might, he wanted to make a special case, a special argument, as we said, in front of Hashem, ho'il shahaya onav, specifically because Yehoshua was known to Moshe personally to be an exceedingly humble person. Kenizkar le'el, as we mentioned, as we discussed before. So the key to the entire picture is Moshe's knowledge, his personal knowledge of Yehoshua as a profound onav, as a deeply humble person who was completely foreign to arrogant thoughts and arrogant egocentric type thinking. And that's why Moshe said a special claim, and we can call it a tefillah, a special prayer for Yehoshua. And now let's go to the last paragraph. And we can also now answer the question that many of the commentators asked, Lama hispalo Moshe al Yehoshua v'lo hala acherim. Why did he daven for Yehoshua and not for all of the other spies? Hashem yatzilei mi yetzer hara, that Hashem should save them from the yetzer hara. V'nira maso ponim badavar. And it appeared by Moshe just saying a special prayer or a claim for Yehoshua that he was showing favoritism. The Meforshim asked this question. Not only are they asking, shouldn't Moshe have davened for everyone? Didn't Moshe want all of them to stay away from an evil report? And in addition to that, doesn't it look bad? Doesn't it look like favoritism that for Moshe only to change Hoshea bin Nun's name and change it to Yehoshua and to make kind of a special plea for Yehoshua? That's favoritism because Yehoshua was known to be his close personal assistant. It doesn't look right, the Meforshim say, for Moshe to do that. So the Zera Shimshon is now going to add a whole entirely new perspective in addition to everything he's explained before. To Isa b'sefer Zera Barech, it states in the sefer Zera Barech b'shem ha'ari zal, and quoting the Ari, in the name of the Ari, sha'ata b'chnisasam la'aretz, at this point when they were entering the land, Rotza HaKadosh Baruch Hu sheyisaver be'elu yudbeis nesiim nishmos yudbeis shvatim. Moshe wanted the neshamos of the 12 tribes, the actual sons of Yaakov Avinu, Reuven, Levi, Yehuda, etc., to be incorporated, to join with the neshamas of each of the 12 meraglim, each of the 12 spies. Why? In order to spiritually repair them and strengthen them, v'lo yechetu, and to make sure they wouldn't sin. So yes, Moshe, according to the Ari, Moshe was concerned about the spies coming back with an evil report and the spies doing something that ran counter to their previous lives of righteousness. He was concerned, and in order to strengthen them spiritually, he dived into Hashem. He hoped that the neshamas of the shvatim themselves would each be incorporated into each of the neshamas of the meraglim from each of the tribes. V'im kol zeh lo hoyel klum. With all of that effort, it wasn't effective. It didn't actually help, because we see that 10 of the meraglim came back with an evil report. Omnom, however, Levi nisgalgel bi Yehoshua. The neshama of Levi came into Yehoshua. And we'll talk about that for a moment. And Yehoshua was not a Levi. He was not from the tribe of Levi. So he was from the tribe of Ephraim. We'll talk about that in a moment. Ki shevet Levi lo shalach meragel, because the tribe of Levi didn't send its own spy. Even she'ein lo chelik ba'aretz, because they did not have a chelik in the land. V'chulei ad kan l'shono b'kitzur, until here is a quote from that sefer in summary, in short. Let's pause for a second so we understand what was just being said. Levi did not have a spy. There was no spy that was sent on behalf of Shevet Levi. However, 12 spies were sent. Why? Because the two sons of Yosef had been divided into two tribes, the tribe of Ephraim and the tribe of Menashe. So when Yosef's neshama, the neshama of Yosef, was going to come into a tribe, what's being said is it came into the tribe of Menashe, which left Ephraim without a neshama incorporated into it from the original Shvatim, from the original 12 sons of Yaakov Avinu. So Levi, the neshama of Levi, who didn't have a spy representing that tribe, was available to come into and join with the neshama of Ephraim, of Yehoshua, representing the tribe of Ephraim, because Ephraim did not have its own neshama from the Shvatim. So there was kind of a match made in heaven according to this explanation, in the name of the Ari, that the neshama of Levi was matched with the neshama of Yehoshua. Umeata, and from now, since Levi was the head, the founder, the progenitor of Moshe Rabbeinu's tribe, Shapir Avad, it would made sense what Moshe did, Liyos Makpid Olav Yoser Miyalacherim, to be more careful and more particular about him, meaning Levi / Yehoshua, which we're now saying is a joint neshama. Veleka maso panim klal, and there's no special favoritism that Moshe was showing to Yehoshua for Yehoshua's sake per se. Because now that we understand this idea from the Ari about the neshamos, Moshe Rabbeinu was directly involved. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, my great ancestor Levi has joined, his neshama has joined and been incorporated with Yehoshua. So of course I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that things work out and are arranged, and I'm going to dive into Hashem, and I'm going to change his name, and I'm going to do all those things to give as much divine protection as I can, because I personally am involved now, Moshe Rabbeinu felt, because of Levi's spiritual connection with Ephraim. But of course, all of this that we just said in the last paragraph is in addition to the theme that the Zera Shimshon developed previously, which all focused on the quality, on the midah of anivus, of humility, and how Yehoshua was such an exceedingly humble person. And that's why Moshe said the things that he said, and Moshe made the case that he made about Yehoshua not being caught up in the gaiva, in the lack of humility that ultimately led to the downfall of the other spies of the other meraglim. So in addition to having an absolutely once again, beautiful piece in the Zera Shimshon that shows us so many insights into and behind the scenes insights as to what's going on in Chumash, we also have a very valuable and very important lesson about the quality of anivus, the quality of humility. And we see how even when it comes to great men, to righteous men, to tzaddikim, to leaders, gaiva, arrogance, a lack of humility, and it's not for us to judge them, of course, chas v'shalom, we know that these were people on madregas far beyond our own, but nonetheless, we can take the lesson for ourselves and say that we always have to do everything we can to stay away and to fight that midah of gaiva and thinking things can only get accomplished if it's through us, if it includes us. No, things get accomplished because of how Hashem wants them to be accomplished. And chas v'sholom, that we should ever think a plan of Hashem's shouldn't come to be because it doesn't involve us, or it doesn't give us the proper kavod that we're supposed to receive. God forbid that we should ever think along those lines. Yasher koach to everyone for participating in tonight's learning, and we look forward, God willing, to learning again next week.